Hello, hello, hello. Happy Sunday, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us right here. You already know, Fantasy Life on Sirius XM. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you for the next couple of hours, breaking down everything you need to know. NFL draft is coming up quickly here, Adam. We've got a new mock draft at fantasylife.com. We got a lot of, and we had the league meetings last week. We got a lot of good stuff to talk about. How you doing?
Doing well, and you are right. There's always something going on in the NFL, contract extensions, obviously a lot of hype as the draft approaches here in a few weeks, and looks like it's going to be a wild one with a lot of unpredictable outcomes, which is always good and bad, but makes things fun and interesting. So yeah, the NFL just never sleeps. It may seem like it's a little quiet now, but it really never is.
You got a new quarterback. Congratulations.
Yeah, look, I mean, the trade, it was a good trade. You know, you don't really see the Cowboys do good things, but it was a good trade. They really didn't give up much in getting Joe Milton from the Patriots, who did flash. He definitely has a big arm. Accuracy is certainly an issue, and it's weird though. Like, did the Patriots just say, hey, let's sell high now because
I guess
they see him all the time in practice, and maybe they said, you know what, let's just get what we can from him. And then they said they were trying to be cooperative and send him to a place where he wanted to go. So, I mean, look, Dallas certainly could have used a backup, but we'll see. Hopefully he doesn't play.
I was going to say, hopefully we never have to talk about him during the season. No offense, but I hope we never have to talk about him. And then, the Patriots have Joshua Dobbs, but I did see that, and I was like, okay, this isn't as bad as, like, let's say a Jonathan Mingo trade. That was, it's
that was terrible.
It's a little bit better than that. And we have a White Lotus finale tonight, which we've been talking about. We will not spoil it for anyone listening, but I'm excited. It's supposed to be a long one, hour and a half, and it should tie everything up. And then if you guys like White Lotus, by the way, you and I were talking about this before the show started, but Ian Hartitz did a phenomenal job. There's an article at fantasylife.com, and he wrote this up just a couple days ago, imagining the White Lotus season 3 guests as fantasy football league mates. And it is so good. You have to go and read it.
It really is tremendous. When I saw it and started reading it, I was like, damn, how come I didn't come up with this idea? So a lot of credit to Ian. I messaged him about it. I'm like, this is an award-winning piece. It really is. And he did a great job with it. So if you watch White Lotus and you play fantasy, you need to check it out. I even think if you don't play fantasy, or if you don't watch the show, you might, it helps to watch the show, but maybe it'll get you in to watching the show. But yeah, I thought it was a great job.
Yeah, it was seriously phenomenal. So there's, like you said, a lot going on. We got the Masters coming up this week. Okay, I know that there's no football. This has to be one of the best weeks of the year, though, right? I mean, we've got baseball on, we've got NBA, we've got hockey, and now we've got the Masters. We're wrapping up March Madness. We've got the women's final tonight, and then I think, is the men's tomorrow? Monday night?
Men's a Monday night, yeah. Women are this afternoon, right after our show, 3 p.m. Eastern.
This is one of the best weeks of the year. Without any football, this has to be one of the best weeks of the year, because you're going to get the best nap of your life with the Masters on this weekend as well. Come on. This is the time, Adam, that you take a nap.
Well, you could say, if you want to include the NFL, you could say one of the best months, right? Because we do have the draft in a few weeks. So, yeah, this is certainly a busy time with baseball just beginning, NBA wrapping up last week of the regular season. So the playoffs begin shortly.
Oh, nice.
Same thing with the NHL, right? They're wrapping up. You'll get the playoffs too. So it is one of those months where you have a lot going on. And we know the NFL draft always gets a lot of attention. So, yeah, it's a great time right now. Keeps us busy. I am not big into golf, but I know the Masters is a huge tournament, obviously. Yes. So if it's close near the end, I'll tune in. There's, whenever I see, I can't watch 4 days of golf. I can't.
Come on.
I can't do it. There's too much going on. There's baseball, and, I'm betting baseball and basketball every day. So I can't get into golf like that. But if next Sunday, during our show and after it, if it's close and it's an exciting finish, I'll absolutely tune in.
The whole point is to watch it the whole week through. It's so fun. It's so fun. I'm trying to win the lottery. I'm trying to win the lottery to go, because they do the tickets are just, it's a lottery. I don't think you can buy them, but it's the lottery to go. So every single year, try and put my name down. Haven't won yet, but I feel like it's close. It's going to happen.
Well, do you have that type of luck when it comes to those things?
No, I don't win anything. Do you win stuff?
I usually have pretty good luck, yeah.
Oh, maybe you should put your name in. And then if you win, I'm going to be mad at you and I'm actually not going to talk to you for at least a couple weeks.
Right,
That would
because
piss
if
me
I
off.
go and then you'll be like, wait, all these years I've been trying
No,
to get it in and you
actually.
just pop in once and now you get the tickets.
I'll send you the link. I think it's June 1st. June 1st every year it opens. So I'll send you the link. And then if you win, yeah, we have to have a conversation.
So you really watch these major tournaments like all 4 days? You'll watch all 4 days of the Masters?
Yes, the Masters, yeah. Or I'll
Okay.
at least have it on. You know what? It's just such a
like
good
while you
vibe.
do work in the
Yeah,
background.
yeah.
Okay.
It's just fun. And then you have the best nap of your life during the week. Like
Well, I'm
Sunday.
sure you get good
yeah.
naps watching the Mariners
amazing.
offense, right?
Ugh, stop. Do we have to do this right now? I'm out. I can't, Adam, I can't keep doing this. And then they're going to get hot in July. And then what are they going to do? They're going to miss the playoffs by what? 1-2 games?
They've scored 28 runs in 9 games.
It's crazy what happens when you don't add anyone
To your
in,
offense,
in the off season. Like that's just crazy. I can't believe this is happening. What was the quote though? They wanted Jerry Dipoto wanted to win 54% of the games in the next 10 years. So
That's okay.
I don't start the show off like this.
All right, I'm sorry.
I can't do this.
Well, you brought up my Cowboys and they're depressing.
It was a good move. I said
it doesn't matter. They
congrats.
still are not going to be good. So the
I
fact
know,
that you
but then
brought
I
them
brought
up
up-
when I was in a good mood,
I know.
I
I'm
had
sorry.
to I had
All
to go
right.
back at you.
All right, I apologize. I won't bring up Jonathan Mingo again
Yeah,
during
don't
this show.
please. What a horrible trade.
What horrible. It's just some things that we could just shake our head at and be like, what is going on? All right, let's get into the show though. And yeah, happy White Lotus Day to all who celebrate here. It'll be a fun one to watch tonight. We do have a little bit of news. It was more like money and just a few other things that were coming from the league meetings, but I did want to talk to you about Trey McBride. Cardinals reached a 4-year, $76 million extension with Trey McBride. So he is now the highest paid tight end in NFL history. Trivia question for anyone listening, who was the last? It was, of course, Travis Kelce, highest average per year for a tight end when he was at $17.125 million, and now Trey McBride $19 million in the deal, which again, highest paid tight end in the NFL. And Adam, for everything that he did last season, especially, I know the touchdowns didn't come. It was so funny to read through everything that he did last season. So he led the league in targets per route run among tight ends, team targets, receiving first downs, second in receiving yards, receptions, targets, and receiving yards per game. And he had 2 touchdowns, but that's okay. We don't need to talk about that. The touchdowns will come hopefully this year, but for everything he did last year, this probably made sense to lock him up.
Absolutely. And if you had Trey McBride in fantasy last year, you were loving life, even with the lack of touchdowns. So maybe in a non-PPR league, you weren't as happy, but still, he got the yards and the receptions every single game. Now, he only scored 3 touchdowns 2 years ago also. So he only has 6 touchdowns in 49 games. You would think, though, if you're getting the volume that he had, 147 targets last year, 111 receptions, that the positive touchdown regression will come. So he is going to be the number 2 tight end off the board. I think we all pretty much agree on that. It'll be Brock Bowers going as the first tight end and then McBride. And the question is, how early do you draft him? And do you feel comfortable doing that? Because we all know, depending on your format and the setup, taking a tight end early, you have to hit on that tight end. Yes. If you don't, it's a major problem, because if you invest in a tight end round 2, round 3, you're really not taking that backup tight end until the last couple rounds, if you even take one. Sometimes you might not even take one with 16 roster spots. So you're heavily invested in that player. So they have to stay healthy and they have to perform. So in recent years, Travis Kelce's been one of those guys, and he's been pretty good every single year until like the last year or two where we've seen him dip. And, you know, if you're playing in a league with 3 receivers and 2 flex spots, it makes it a little bit more difficult. So I'm going to be interested to see if you can take McBride in the 3rd round and still have a good build, because my guess is he's going to go early 3rd round. And I'm open to taking him there, because say you start off a draft with Bijan Robinson, then you come back with a receiver late round 2, maybe a T. Higgins, a JSN, maybe if you're lucky, a Drake London, and then come back with McBride. I could see that working, but usually I don't like to have that type of build. But McBride is someone that you would feel, I think you would feel comfortable. It's 2 years in a row. Kyler Murray is very comfortable with him. Based on what they have now, it's a similar offense. Nothing much has changed, and he seems to be the go-to guy. So How do you feel about that, though? Do you feel comfortable? Because
Oh,
I'm sure
yeah.
you don't do it often, right? You don't
I
take tight ends
don't.
that often.
No, I don't, especially early. Like first 2 rounds, I don't usually do it. But now we have Brock Bowers, we have Trey McBride, where I sit back at him and I say, maybe it's time to start getting a little bit uncomfortable with these builds because of what Brock Bowers, I mean, we all, the records that he had last season, everything. And he did that with an Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew build. So I know for everything that we talk about Geno Smith coming in, and we'll talk about his extension, like that is an upgrade in the quarterback room. So for me, I am open to it. I don't know though if I'm good with second round. That's where Brock Bowers is going right now. That's on Underdog. I know that that's a little bit different than what we're going to talk about Yahoo ESPN drafts coming up here in a few months. But to get Trey McBride though, for me, you'd have to be you'd have to be one of the top 5 first picks.
I think so.
Because he doesn't make it he won't make it past, the fourth or even fifth pick in the third round. So if you're on that back end and you're saying, well, I want to get, that's where you get Brock Bowers probably in the second. He's not going to come back to you in the third round. So I'm comfortable with Trey McBride definitely in the third round. I could see him maybe sneaking up into the second in the next couple of months, but it kind of just all depends. It's interesting too that the Cardinals have been mocked to get Tedero McMillan a lot this offseason. So adding another weapon, that's always going to be a topic of conversation. You add him, maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. finally has that big season like I think he will. And then you have, Trey McBride. That could be interesting, but I'm comfortable with it. It's just definitely, like you said, it's going to be a different build, especially if you go, like, let's say you go Bijan Robinson, Bucky Irving, and then you take Trey McBride as your tight end. You're really going to have to, you want to sprinkle in, to me, you want to sprinkle in a wide receiver. I know that some people really like the double running back move, and they're going to look at last season and say, wow, if I could get, Bijan and Bucky with the third pick in my draft and then come back with Trey McBride, fine. But I'd rather, like, let's say Saquon Barkley, end of the second round, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Trey McBride, like just getting kind of every position there. Cause tight end, like you said, they need to hit, and it will with Trey McBride, but you're not going to get the elite wide receivers, and it goes downhill pretty fast in some of these drafts.
Yeah, if you are in a league that starts 3 wide receivers PPR, I don't think you can do the 2 running back, 1 tight end build. The other thing you have to take into account as well, if you do take a tight end early, it's really difficult to take a quarterback early as well. Yep. Like most of the teams I've seen in the past, you take a tight end and a quarterback in the first 5-6 rounds, it's going to leave you really thin at the other positions. You really have to hammer that position and hope that a lot of you hit on mid to late round value. So again, it all depends on your roster setup, what the league rules are. I always like to look for the next Brock Bowers or the Sam Laporta from 2 years ago. And we might have 2 rookies that fit the bill this year in Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, depending on where they land. But that's always the goal. Because if you get stuck with like a Dalton Kincaid from last season in round 5, that really hurts you, because I had him in a couple leagues last year, and it's painful. It really just ruins your team, because if you take that tight end in the first 5 rounds, you're invested and you tend to be patient and stick with them, and you are waiting for the turnaround. And when it doesn't happen, by then it's like you're low on points, and a lot of the tight ends that maybe emerged off the waiver wire the first few weeks, Jonnu Smith last season, they're already on another team. So that's the risk that you take. So the goal is always to try and find that tight end. That was Brock Bowers last year, Sam Laporta from 2 years ago, not necessarily a rookie, but trying to find a tight end that goes in the mid to late rounds. But if you have a Trey McBride, you just have such a comfort level. I took him in a couple leagues last year in round 5, and both those teams did very well.
Yeah, no, I bet they did. I'm jealous of you. I didn't get.
I still had Dalton Kincaid on a few, so
that's true. I had a lot of Kittle last year, so I can't complain about. I know. I can't complain about it.
This year for Kittle too.
Oh, easily. But he's not going to be a round 5, round 6.
No, he won't. Well,
he's going to be expensive.
Yeah, he will. But I think he's the other tight end that you can pay up for. I think he's going to be the 3rd tight end off the board, because this could be the year that he's actually the feature guy in the 49ers offense.
Yeah, which is crazy because of the output that he gave last season, when that wasn't even supposed to be the case, really. You had Brandon Ayuk, you had Deebo Samuel, and then Deebo decided to just, I don't know, take the season off, unfortunately. But I agree. And George Kittle, he's finished 6th or better in fantasy points per game each of the past 7 years. So now you have a season where you're saying, okay, maybe it's Juwan Jennings, maybe it's Ricky Pearsall, but George Kittle's right there, and he should absolutely be the 3rd tight end taken off the board. It's Brock Bowers, and then it's Trey McBride, and then it's George Kittle. No
Yeah,
question.
and the thing with Kittle, he is so efficient. This is a guy that hasn't had over 100 targets since 2019. And
That's
that's
crazy.
it is. It really is. Like the 1 year he had 136 targets. In his second year, he had 88 receptions, 1,377 yards, which is a career high, only 5 touchdowns. But the one thing we have seen the touchdowns increase a little bit the last few years. He had 8 last year. But looking at the way this 49ers offense is set up now, he should be the feature guy. You know, you do, like you said, you have Jennings,
Hmm.
Pearsall. We'll see when Brandon Ayuk is ready to come back. Looks like Christian McCaffrey will be good to go. But to me, Kittle should be the guy that potentially leads this team in targets. And like you said, he is a little bit more costly than last season, but another guy that I think is worth paying up for.
He's going, I mean, again, this is underdog. So we need to
Right.
take this with a grain of salt because this is all going to change. And we're talking April here. So there's not that many drafts going on, but he is going 5th round in underdog drafts. So
That's fair. I like again, I 5th round, I think I don't mind taking my tight end one. Like I said, I did it last year with Trey McBride. That worked out. I did it with Dalton Kincaid. That
yeah,
was an epic failure. So
it's okay.
I don't mind doing it in the 5th round because at that
No.
point you could potentially start 2 RBs, 2 receivers, or 1 running back, 3 receivers. Take your tight end, and then you probably have to wait on your quarterback though.
Yeah.
But I also think it depends on the competitiveness of your league. Like I tend to play in really competitive leagues, some high stakes leagues, so you have to be really sharp with all the decisions you make. I think in that, if I'm building that way, I'm probably going to wait on quarterback. So that's why you have to plan these things out beforehand. If you have a blueprint to go tight end, one of those top 3 tight ends,
Hmm.
then you have to say, okay, how am I going to attack quarterback? Because I've seen teams when you take a tight end and a quarterback in the first 5, 6 rounds, those builds usually do not pan out well.
Yeah, and like you said though, if you're getting one in the 5th round, that's ideal, especially if it's George Kittle. To be honest, you could take George Kittle in the 4th round, and I wouldn't be mad about it. So, like you said though, you get 3 elite wide receivers because the drop off there, Adam, is just so big. But maybe you get that anchor running back in the 1st round. Let's just say it. You could get Jameer Gibbs if you're on the front. If you're on the front end, you know what, Jameer Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Ashton Genty is going to sneak in if he's not already there in the
Oh,
first
he will
round.
be. We already know. He's going to go late
He's
first
going to
round.
be.
He's going
It's
to go late first round.
which and again, I think Achane is going to fall. Achane going ahead of Christian McCaffrey. I could see people tell themselves, you know what, we've got Christian McCaffrey. He never really played fully last season. He did get re-injured, but now he's got a full off season of health. Derrick Henry's always going to be there because he's an outlier, and you can't predict a fall off with him because it's Derrick Henry. He's the king. So it's just one of those things though where you can get 3 good wide receivers, you can get a running back, and then 5th round George Kittle turn around. And yeah, you do have to. You're right though. You have to wait a little bit, but you could still be getting a Brock Purdy in the 9th round. You could get a Jared Goff in the 9th round. 10th is Justin Fields if you want to wait on him and you think that he has the upside. So yeah, there's some good builds right now. Again, it's really early, Adam, and we're talking underdogs. So this
Yeah.
is all going to change. But right now it is interesting to see the landscape because there are some good quarterbacks that you could wait on potentially, but it's boom or bust, right? Justin Fields, we've talked about him a lot. Like that's, it could be good or it could be really bad. I feel like there's going to be no in between there for us this year. That's okay.
I think overall it's going to be good for him. He's a running quarterback. It looks like the Jets have said he's going to be the guy. He
Yeah.
has 20 rushing touchdowns in 50 career games. So we saw last year too. He was on pace. It was what he started 6 games, I believe.
Yeah, 6 games.
Yeah,
For the
he was
Steelers,
on
yep.
pace to be, a top QB1. So the thing with Fields, you just cannot watch it every play. He'll infuriate you. He takes a lot of bad sacks. He makes bad decisions. But there's a difference between NFL and fantasy. And from a fantasy perspective for Fields, he's that quarterback. He's
Yep.
going to run. It's going to give him the high floor. He doesn't need to do much in the passing game. And we've seen it every time he gets the opportunity to start. So I don't mind him as my QB1. I think if you do wait on the position, I'm fine with him.
They did say, like you said, Fields is, we believe Justin is the starter. This was their general manager. We said that the league meetings were going on last week. So, I mean, he came out and said it, and they're paying him like a QB1. You know, you don't get 30 million guaranteed as part of a 2-year deal. And they say, well, look over your shoulder. Anything can happen. Listen, if he's really bad, anything could happen. And I'm sure they'll be fine with saying, you know, we have to go in a different direction. But for right now, Justin Fields is the guy over there, which is kind of nice that he does not have to be looking over his shoulder just to start the season. We do have you covered. Folgers has you covered. Hashtag not sponsored yet. Adam, I'm calling them. They haven't, what did Gino say? They tried to write me out. I haven't written back them. Something like that. That's me with Folgers.
They tried to write me off.
Not write me off. Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't write back though. That's me with Folgers. You know, it'll happen though. And then it'll be the best day of my life.
Yeah. And then I'll say how good it is as well.
Yes. You have to get in on it.
I will. I have to.
And then they'll listen back to the shows and say, wow, Adam actually does.
We'll delete those archives.
They'll say, wow, actually, wait a second. We can't do this deal because we listen to how Adam doesn't like us. You know, more people message me, by the way, to say how good Folgers is than the other way around.
Well,
so.
First of all,
Go ahead.
they're not going to go out of the way to message you and say it sucks because, you know,
Some
you are
do.
very pleasant. You have a good personality, so you're not the confrontational type. So they're not going to do that. They're not going to tell you it sucks. They'll come to me and say, what is Kendall thinking? They're not going to do it directly at you because you don't bring that animosity towards you. So
your birthday is coming up, so I think I have to. I think it's a Folgers birthday. I think you have to get like,
it's 2 weeks.
Yes, 2 weeks not this coming Saturday, but the next Saturday.
Yes.
Oh, so fun. Yeah, I think Folgers, like a Folgers gift box will come to your door.
For you, your birthday's still a big deal, right?
Yeah, it's at an odd, mine's January 11th. So it's like right after Christmas. So it's kind of, you know, it's a big deal, but it's at the time of year isn't as fun. Like April sounds amazing.
It shouldn't matter when your birthday is.
Well, no, I know, but it's just right after Christmas. So then you don't get.
The worst is though, like so I have a friend whose birthday is December 23rd. That's the worst because people give you 2 gifts and go, Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday.
Exactly.
That's
you say,
bad.
wait a second. Or you meet the family my family doesn't do this. If you're listening, this is not you, but they say like, oh, like dual gifts. Like if you have a New Year's birthday, that kind of, you have a good birthday.
I don't think January 12th though. That's still far enough removed from Christmas that they can't do that.
No, they can't. But that's April's a good year.
Yeah, I mean, especially spring, you know, you could get snow here though, but I don't think we will get snow. Hopefully.
Well, you're playing softball now, so everything will be okay.
Yeah, even though it's freezing, you know, played the other night, it was probably like 40 degrees. Yeah, so fun.
So fun.
Rain, a drizzle coming down. Yeah, it's perfect.
So you'll have your Folgers out there in a couple weeks and it'll all be okay. So I absolutely love that for you. Let's go how do I do this? Let's go through league meeting rumors. I have no way to get us from Folgers and your birthday to league meeting rumors. So I'm just gonna go straight
from one awful thing to positive rumors.
What's an awful thing? Oh, stop! I thought you meant your birthday, but you're talking. Stop it! Not about the coffee. Get out of here. I did want to bring up too. We wrote about this in the Fantasy Life newsletter, so this was one I definitely wanted to highlight here, but. Oh, should we be concerned about Breece Hall? It almost feels like, and when we wrote this, it feels like they're just trying to tell us what's going to happen in 2025, and they're not shying away from it. It looks like it could be a new look backfield, but it's not featuring one guy, Adam. It's featuring 3, a 1-2-3 punch from Aaron Glenn. That was one of his quotes. He said, quote, I think mentally Hall is in a good place, but I would say that we have 3 running backs on this team that we're going to utilize as much as possible, which for us, Adam, in fantasy football is the worst thing that we can hear. So Breece Hall, it's already baked into his ADP. You know, the season that he had last year, how it was just not good. It was a really big fall off, but is he going to be a risky pick no matter where he is in drafts?
You know, at first, before these reports came out, I looked at it and said, Breece Hall might be a value, but we can't take everything coaches say at face value. We know that. But Aaron Glenn didn't say with Garrett Wilson, we want to get him the ball. And he wasn't as positive when it came to Breece Hall. So there's definitely concern here now. And you're starting to hear some trade rumors involving Breece Hall as well. So, yeah, this is definitely something that we're paying attention to. We have seen Breece Hall's efficiency go down the last 2 years. Now, part of that is they've had a really bad offensive line. It's not like the running backs behind him last year did much better than Breece Hall. We've seen Breece Hall doesn't have the breakaway speed that we saw 2 years ago.
Hmm.
He'll have another full year removed from the injury, but yeah, Breece Hall was a top 3 running back in drafts last year, and now like we're seeing him go third round, and then you're hearing all this talk about 2 other running backs, potential trades. So yeah, this is a key that we're really watching here to see what happens with Breece Hall, because I think 2-3 weeks ago you might have said, oh wow, we're getting a player that was going in the first round, now round 3. Could this be a bargain? But we just haven't heard positive things as far as his role for fantasy over the last 5 days from Jets coach Aaron Glenn.
And there's reason, I guess, to shake it up if you look at the numbers and how it's gone for Breece Hall. When you look at his seasons, there has been a decline, right? His yards per carry average has gone from 5.8 to 4.5 to 4.2. Rush yards over expected per attempt is the same thing. Those have really dropped per next gen stats. So there's reason to say, hey, and from what they saw in a couple of those other guys last season, they could say, all right, well, Allen, Davis, like you saw some promise over there. So, and he's coming, Aaron Glenn, by the way, from a team that liked to split the workload with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Not to say, hey, this is a new organization now. He's a brand new head coach, so not to say that he's going to follow that path completely. But yeah, just the decline with Breece Hall has been kind of staggering and shocking, especially from where we were drafting him last season. Adam, it was just he was the guy to go and get. He was obviously going to have a big season, and it just didn't come together. So I just always worry. I know that we can't take everything coaches say, but when they're saying 1, 2, 3 punch in the middle of April, it does make me a little bit nervous. Like, why would we not, believe that?
Yeah, and it doesn't mean it will happen, but for him to go out of his way and say this, and again, look what he said with Breece Hall compared to Garrett Wilson, where it was no sugarcoating. We got to get him the ball as much as possible. Also helps Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson, both at Ohio State, know each other very well. Breece Hall also a free agent in 2026, so he cannot be happy hearing this as well. And yes, in Detroit, they had the 2-headed monster. I mean, part of that was, though, you have to, Gibbs obviously in any other system would get more touches, and we've seen how good he can be. So you had 2 running backs who deserved to get the touches. Again, we've only seen a limited from Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis. I think we were excited about Braylon Allen, and we're wondering, why did the Jets take him? That was the other factor, too. I know it's a different regime, but they had Breece Hall last year, and they drafted 2 running backs. You usually don't see that.
And they weren't, they utilized those, Braylon Allen, they utilized him, like Isaiah Davis, like complimenting Hall. I don't know. It's all kind of right there. So maybe this is his way of sending a message, because he hasn't reached that full potential that anyone would want either, out of the organization or for fantasy football. So that's the thing. We know it's in there, but is it going to come out with the Jets? And that's, like you said, the trade speculation is going to be huge, because Hall, for when we talk about contract extension for them, the Jets have to figure out not only maybe him, but then you have Sauce Gardner, and then of course Garrett Wilson, both drafted in the same year as Breece Hall. So there's going to be, Adam, a lot of questions right now with Breece Hall and what he could potentially do in 2025. Are you drafting him potentially with this? It's baked into the ADP. Do you take a chance and you say, okay, well, I think he's going to have a bigger season. I think he's going to showcase his skill set, and he could be a low end RB2 because of where he's going right now off the board.
So in Underdog, you said he's going 3rd round, late?
Yes, late.
I
shouldn't say late. I should say wait.
I think it's going to change
middle.
though, based on this news. I'm very interested to see, like, over the next week, how far he moves down if people do react to this news. So right now, I'm going to say no, but a lot is going to change as well, especially after the draft. Seeing where some of the other running backs land, some of these rookie running backs who grows into a big role, who lands on a team where maybe it's not ideal. So right now I'm going to say no. But if you are optimistic on Breece Hall, I think you do want to draft maybe in the next few days. Let his price drop a little, if because I'm sure there's people who don't buy into it and think it's going to be Breece Hall, talent wins out. Maybe this does ignite him and get him going. But you just don't like to see these type of comments.
No, No, not this early either. Not this early in the season where you say, or the off season where you say, okay, where there's smoke, there's going to be a little bit of fire there. So that's definitely one to watch out for. I have to remind all of you to go to fantasylife.com, check out all of our new mock drafts. We've got the NFL draft coming up so quickly. And then of course we've got Dwayne McFarland's rookie supermodel that is live as well. So you can check out all of those rookies coming in, where they land and stack in the supermodel, fantasylife.com. While you're there, subscribe to that newsletter. All right, a little bit more of just rumors from the league meetings, but I want to couple this, Adam, with some potential stacks to target. And of course, we're talking a little bit of best ball here, but I do want to open it up to just overall stacks and where we kind of rank them for the 2025 season. But this one made me I don't know. Maybe this is the time that we don't believe coaches and everything that they say, because to say Xavier Legette can be your wide receiver one, can be that guy for the Carolina Panthers, that is Dave Canales might believe that guy is already on the roster, and it's Xavier Legette. And it makes me, Adam, sit back and say, I kind of don't believe you, because this is also a team that was linked to trying to get DK Metcalf. We know Canales was with the Seahawks for a little while there with Geno Smith. So there was a connection. So I don't know, Adam, to me, you can't tell me that you're going to try and go get DK Metcalf. It doesn't work. But now Xavier Legette can be that guy for you. I still think, and this is probably the only team really for fantasy football. We said Drake May needed help and needed some more weapons. They went out and got Stephon Diggs, which is good, which is fine. But for the Carolina Panthers, they've really focused on the other side of the ball. They've focused on defense. I think they've only added one offensive piece to this team so far this offseason. So, to say that maybe what they've already seen from Xavier Legette is good enough to be that guy, I don't believe it. I still think they need to go out and do some work during this NFL draft and get someone. But I'm surprised they haven't really gone out there to get, someone else for Bryce Young, especially with the season end that we saw for him. He was pretty good. So they still have Xavier Legette. They've got Adam Thielen, but they need a few more weapons over there.
Well, yes, because they didn't get any of those receivers they were eyeing. Of course, they're going to say, yeah, we believe in Legette. He can be our one. And I don't think anyone believes him. Certainly the fantasy community doesn't believe him. Just look at his ADP. So, yeah, as good as Bryce Young was to finish the year, it's because we're comparing him to what he did previously when he was awful. But if you just looked at the stats, you would not be impressed. And I know it goes beyond stats because, we're talking real NFL, and then obviously we're translating it to fantasy. He was much improved because especially he was running a little bit. But if I just gave you the stat lines for Bryce Young down the stretch and said, hey, what do you think of this? You wouldn't be like, oh, that's not good. It just goes to show how bad Young was before. But a lot of it has to do with he's not surrounded by a lot of weapons on this team. What do you expect him to do? When you look at some of the other quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, and what they have around them, this just isn't good enough. And we saw flashes from Legette, but we also saw he wasn't able to do much with the deep passes. I think I saw a stat that there were 9 throws of at least 20 yards to him. He didn't catch any of them.
Yikes. It's just that's why I'm like, okay, maybe they see DK Metcalf in Xavier Legette, but Adam, if we say that, it can only be maybe their measurements, like that's the only way that they can maybe stack up together. So again, I understand for the Carolina Panthers focusing on the defensive side of the ball, right? Because they had a horrible 2024 season, right? They finished in last in the league in total defense, gave up the most points from any team in the NFL. So it was just really bad. But Adam, other side of it is you have less than $20 million devoted to your wide receiver and tight end rooms. So it's like, what do you expect? It's like when I rant about the Seahawks and I say they don't spend money on the offensive line. What do you expect? You are getting what you pay for there. So that's what's more disappointing is like, yeah, Bryce Young you're right. It wasn't great. For fantasy football, I think we're talking more, do you take him as a super flex option? He's never going to come away as your QB1, or at least he should not come away as your QB1 on any team that you draft. But when you look at the guys around him, I mean, their wide receivers, tight ends ranked dead last in average open score in 2024. So they separation wasn't easy. It just wasn't easy for them at all. So for Bryce Young, he finished QB 18 in fantasy points per game, 18.6.
Was he really that high?
Well, it's from week 8 to 18.
Okay.
Yeah, not overall. But he, that's what I'm saying, that's the flash.
As good as we talk about how he was, it still wasn't that impressive.
It wasn't great.
we're comparing him to what he did previously, and we're also saying this is a guy who got benched and we didn't know what his future would be, and he bounced back from that and improved. But the bottom line is here, there's still not enough weapons to really feel great about Bryce Young. He needs some help.
Okay, their best option in this year's draft is Tedderell McMillan. It's not a deep wide receiver class. That's the other part of it. So that's
the
why
problem.
that's why I was almost surprised that they didn't go out and try and, take away a Stephon Diggs. I know they said that they were in talks with DK Metcalf, or they were at least on the phone with them, but they didn't walk away with anything right now. And so, okay, I don't, we've talked about Tedderell McMillan. He's going to be a good wide receiver, but if you don't get him, there's a pretty significant teardrop. And again, these rankings and the rookie supermodel is live at fantasyleft.com, but there's a huge drop off, Adam, between Tedderell McMillan and the next best person, and they're not getting Travis Hunter. It just feels like he's not gonna make it that far.
They're probably just gonna be a run heavy team with Hubbard and Dowdle.
I mean, we don't hate that. Chuba Hubbard.
No,
that was a fun draft pick last year.
Again, really
he's going to be expensive though. So long gone are the days.
But in a way,
Hubbard.
And I did have Hubbard in the league. In a way, we got lucky, right?
Oh, 1,000%.
Because we all expected Jonathan Brooks to come back. I think the optimism on Brooks was a little too much, though. Well,
for the health reasons alone of people saying, well, the most optimistic ones that we saw where he's going to be good and he's on IR, so he can only come back in week 4 and then he's full go by week 6. And we sat back and we said, that is optimistic. If it happens, that's great. But it never, and they always told us they were pushing it to the very limits, Adam, of adding him back to the roster and saying, yeah, he's going to be good to go. They did that day of.
And he didn't come back till he didn't come back to like week 11, week 12. Was it the London game?
It was it was one of their international games.
I've always said this. If you have that injury optimism, it's usually going to backfire on you. Now, I took him in one league, and the only reason why I did, it was a league where we had 5 IR spots. So I said, okay. It's like it was like round 9 or round 10. So I said, okay, in this format, I'll do it. It's not really going to hurt me if I don't get much from him, as long as my other picks are fine. So I did it there, and it just was awful. I mean, there were people who took him I saw him going around 8 with no IR spots.
Yeah, I saw him go earlier than that.
Yeah, it was crazy. 6. And then Carolina told us, oh, we didn't realize how good Hubbard was, so we're going to give him an exception. Because again, if you follow what teams say, they were telling you, we don't think Hubbard is the guy, right? Because they drafted Brooks. It was round 2, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So they were telling you, and maybe that's what people were doing in fantasy. They were looking and saying, well, Carolina is telling us a story where they don't believe in Hubbard. Taking a running back in round 2 in this era is massive. So they were following what Carolina tells you. But when you got players coming off in injuries, and this goes for all sports, you really don't want to take the optimistic approach because there's always setbacks. Things can happen. So most of the time when you fade that, you're going to come out in the end. There will be times where you get a bargain and the guy comes back and does what you think. But I just was surprised at how early Brooks was going. And again, I did do it in one league, but that's because I had the 5 IR spots.
I was going to say, it's way different when you have, it's same thing when we talked about Nick Chubb. It was way different when we were seeing guys take Nick Chubb and you say, wow, that's crazy. But if you have an IR spot, you do have a little bit of a luxury to say, all right, well, I can put him in the IR spot and hopefully the better part returns. But for both of those guys,
I stayed away from him too. I didn't have any team.
I had 0% Chubb. And that's just to say, it was one of those things where even when you talked like with Christian McCaffrey, when we started getting word that he's not 100% healthy, they were weird about his availability and how he was going to, and then week 1 happens, Adam, and he doesn't go out there. And we're looking around because I believe was that not a Sunday night game or a Monday night?
No, I think it was Monday night.
Yeah, Monday night. And no one knew. So then if you had Christian McCaffrey and he's in, he's in one of your spots and you say, well, I have no one else to go with. That was brutal. So I do love Chuba Hubbard. There's to me, when you look at a 4-year, what was it? around $33 million deal for him. I mean, that's saying that the coaching staff likes him. He fits with what they're trying to do in these next couple of years. So I like him. And your guy, Rico Dowdle, went over to the Panthers. So, I mean, if we're talking about insurance, that could maybe be a good insurance pickup. If you take Hubbard, you never want injuries to happen, but Rico Dowdle, maybe he takes 30, 40%. Nah,
Yeah, I think he's a good
32%.
handcuff.
He's a
Like,
good handcuff.
yeah, and I don't think he should be that expensive. I haven't looked at his
No.
ADP, but I don't think he should be that expensive if you want to go that route.
Yeah, Carolina ranked 11th in rushing EPA last season. Yeah, so just all that to say, maybe a new wide receiver in town, hopefully, and then we'll see. But to wrap it up, I mean Bryce Young, right? Super flex, maybe your second option, but that's risky.
Yeah,
Really
again, I
risky.
like the fact that he was running more, so I think that helps. But you can't be enamored with what they brought in. I'd say
No.
he's probably, if he winds up being your second quarterback in a super flex, it means you really waited on your second quarterback.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Most traded players in Dynasty. Just kind of looking through some guys. Some of them are pretty, a little bit more obvious than others. But I wanted to bring up Jalen Waddle for you because I'm curious, if you had Jalen Waddle and you're a Dynasty manager, if you would rather be buying or acquiring on the inquiring side of Jalen Waddle going into the 2025 season for you, Adam, or if you would be trying to get anything you can for Jalen Waddle right now. Maybe you think Tyreek Hill is going to come back and be better. We saw what they did with Jonnu Smith. We saw what they did with Achane, and hopefully Tua Tagovailoa has a healthier 2025. But yeah, this one's interesting because I feel like people are going to be split right down the middle on this.
I lean more towards a buy because there's a chance that Tyreek Hill is gone. I forgot someone was asked what player is likely to be traded before the draft, and the answer was Tyreek Hill. And I could see it. I mean, he's 31 years old. He was not good last year. So if he's gone, that opens it up for Waddle. So
don't you look at him though and you say, okay, he wasn't good last year, and then they told us that he was playing with a horrible wrist injury? Does that not give you a little bit more hope, or no?
No, because he was still out there and he's so reliant on his speed. We just didn't see the breakaway. Now, it could have been a factor too of him just not wanting to be there. We remember when the season ended, he basically said, I'm gone, then backtracked on it. But there has to be some truth to that because you don't hear players speak like that right after the season ends. So he turns 30. Oh, he turned 31 already last month. So yeah, I could see him being traded or not as effective. So if he's gone, then it opens it up for Waddle to get more targets. So I know you're very down on him because he burned you.
I need to get over it though. We always talk about recency bias. So I need to get over it, which I will, by the time, July comes and we go to 5 days a week, I'll get over it. I really do promise. But yeah, I had him because he was just cheaper than I thought he should be last season. But listen, if Tyreek Hill's on the move, then yeah, I mean, it really does open things up. Then the question really, Adam, is Tyreek Hill or Tua Tagovailoa and just his health and what this team could look like with him and what that could be. But I don't know, what's your favorite Tyreek Hill landing spot then? Packers?
That would be good, right?
That would be good.
They can certainly use a one. I'll say this though with Tua, he's always been overrated for fantasy.
That's true. But
he doesn't run.
But we hinge on him I'm talking just him in general, just for the ADP of Jalen Waddle more so than anything else. Like if he's going to be out, how many games is he going to be out there?
That's the thing. We saw Waddle's numbers were down when Tua was out, so he needs Tua.
That's crazy. All right, so maybe we keep an eye on that. I like that. All right, it is our favorite time of the day. Time for that Fantasy Life water cooler. You already know it is the time where we go through the news and notes that we talked about earlier in the show. Make sure you're all caught up, and then going through some of the rumors that we saw, some more rumors, Adam, in the league meetings. But as always, have to point you guys to fantasylife.com. That is where the newsletter is 100% free, and all of our articles also 100% free, getting you ready for that NFL draft coming up in just a few short weeks here. So, the Cowboys can just. Do you believe in the Cowboys this year, Adam? Or
no.
Is it... Okay, cool.
How can I?
It feels like they have, good options at the running back position, so they can't break our hearts again, right?
Oh, yeah, they can. I mean, do you remember last year how everyone. All right, here we go. Look, running backs on the clock. Dallas is going to take them. Nope. And they just kept doing that and doing that. You would think it would be different this year. They have to. I mean, if they go into the season with Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders, I might not watch. I mean, I'll watch because I like to be tortured.
I was
But
gonna say you like.
I don't know if I'll.
pain,
I don't know if I'll
suffering.
attend that Cowboys Giant game this year.
You'll say no. I can't. I
That could be
can't do this.
painful.
I respect that. I respect that. So here's hoping that the Cowboys do good things. The Seahawks. Oh, please, please do good things here. But again, all of that is at fantasylife.com. We're gonna go through a new mock draft here in a little bit, but that is there, and then again, all the rankings as well. So let's get into the water cooler here. Go through some more rumors that I wanted to get to. Dallas Goedert, and I just, starting with, if he moves the needle for us in fantasy football, but that is kind of one of the pieces that we're going to wait for to see if he is on the move or not from the Philadelphia Eagles. So they do have to make a decision. He's 30 years old. He carries a cap hit of $11 million going into this season, Adam, entering the final year of his deal. So that's kind of the thing that we have to watch out for. He is going to be someone that it could be near June 1st. That's probably the date that we have to have circled because it'll probably happen after that because then the cap, goes down, of course. So I'm curious with you, if he goes anywhere, he's missed 10 games. He missed 10 total games in the last 2 seasons for a number of different injuries, but he was very productive for them. It didn't help us in fantasy football, but going into the playoffs, he was a very productive player for them. So do you think he could be on the move? And if he is, would he be someone that you target?
No, I don't think I will be. A lot depends on the landing spot. I've never, at least last year, I think there are some years that I took him, but last year I did not like him at all for fantasy because they brought in Saquon Barkley. So you knew what they were going to do. They were going to give Barkley the ball a lot. That's what they did. You had Jalen Hurts running the football on the ground. So you knew that the passing attempts on that team were not going to be high. So with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, who deserve the football, there's just not enough for Goddard. The only time you felt good about him was when one of those receivers were out. And even then, you were a little concerned. And we saw it last year. Yeah, he had some games in the playoffs that he performed well, especially against Washington. That was the best game. But for fantasy purposes, no. The best thing is for him to leave this team. Because if he stays there, there's no way in fantasy I'm considering him one bit. I really don't care what the price is. I just don't see how you could take him. When they're all healthy, he's just not going to put up the stats you need for fantasy. You're just better off passing on him.
Yeah, I took him. You remember me last year. I took him in a couple drafts just because I was willing to wait. And that was the guy that I just said, all right, well, now I've already passed up on whatever. Travis Kelce, David Njoku, Mark Andrews is gone. TJ Hawkinson's off the board. So I'm just going to default and go to Dallas Goedert. But you're right. It wasn't good. And the quote that came out of the league meeting was that someone asked about, his future with the team. And then Howie Roseman said, quote, "There's no update. Dallas has been a tremendous player and a person for us. We have tremendous respect for him in both these regards. Certainly he's a unique player. That's kind of where we stand on that." So it's non-committal, Adam, just like a lot of these things are right now. But again, carries that $11 million cap hit. So maybe they look to move on. I don't think though, Grant Calcaterra is on the team. And then they went out and got Granson and Harrison Bryant. So
I don't
maybe Calcaterra, but it feels like
none of them, because the way they're built and the way they operate this offense, the tight end is just not going to do anything. They don't even need a top tight end. I mean, we've seen how much success they had. I mean, why would they change? They're going to give Barkley another massive workload, right? They're not really worried about. They gave him some gave him some more money. They're going to run the offense the same. So they're one of those teams that can get by without a top tier tight end. It's just the way they're built.
That's why I think he stays though, is because
it's the money though, right?
No, I know it's 11 million. Yes, it's $11 million cap hit and it's his money and he's going into the final year of his deal. But he also led the team in receptions and receiving yards during that playoff run. So maybe they say we want to keep them all together. I don't know. But you're saying that if they move on from him, don't expect them to go into the draft. We've talked about this is a deeper-ish tight end class this season. There's obviously a top 3 that they probably won't need to go out and get. They're not going to be in the Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren conversation.
Nah, because I don't think either guy lasts to them. Right?
No, that's what I'm saying. Maybe they get Harold Fannin Jr. That's the other tight end out there. But you're saying maybe they don't even need to do that. They could get away with just having a Grant Calcaterra and calling it a day.
Probably. It's because again, it's not like Goddard was a massive contributor for them last year.
Only in the playoffs. really.
And it was really only, but look, okay, here are his playoff stats, and they were much better than the regular season. Against Green Bay, 4 for 47 and a touchdown, 4 for 56 against the Rams, 7 for 85 against Washington, and in the Super Bowl, 2 for 27.
Yep.
So it's not like he did much. Even in the regular season, he missed a lot of games. Although I was just looking, I cannot believe he was 9th in points per game at the tight end position.
Yes.
Is that how bad the tight end position was
That's
last?
how, but it
wasn't good.
But here's the thing, though, and this is what I should have brought this up earlier when we were talking about the top three, the big three. We say, okay, we're going to go after George Kittle. We're going to go after, I was going to say Dalton Kincaid. Absolutely not. McBride and then Brock Bowers. But really, when you wait on that tight end position, the difference, Adam, between finishes is not. Listen, I know you want to get those top three, but just the fantasy finishes, there's not huge differences in some of those guys. And again, I'm trying to think back, and I can look back at other finishes from previous years, but you're always going to have the top three. We can even I can't even actually put it out to the top five, because then it goes down to Jonnu Smith, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, and that wasn't good. So you always have the top three, but the difference between the next 8 to 12 guys, there's not a big difference there.
No, it isn't, which is why a lot of times you're better off not taking that 12th, 13th, 14th tight end off the board. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people is you're in a draft, you don't have a tight end, and you're like, oh, I really need a tight end. Who's the best guy on the board? Okay, I'll take this guy. Most of the time, that player's not going to pan out. You're just better off waiting and getting, even as painful as it looks, because you're going to be like, I'm so weak at tight end. But you talked about it. You look at tight end, let's say 10, that was 10.18 points per game, which was K. Dotton. And then you look at tight end 26, that was 7 points per game. It's not a massive difference. So
exactly.
The key, though, is trying to find that tight end that. So last year it was Bowers, right? Because he was generally round 9, round 10, depending on when you drafted. Jonnu Smith was a guy that was drafted in some leagues. I did draft him in a league as my backup, wound up cutting him. Obviously,
he was
that
on
was
a lot of waiver wires too.
Yes. So, and you have to pounce on that early, though. You can't wait till he has 2 big games. Someone already has him in a competitive league. So there weren't many last year. I mean, K-Dot had a stretch when Evans and Godwin were out where he was a must start every week, but that was basically 3 weeks. We're at 18, 29.1, 21.7. So that was a Band-Aid. Evan Ingram, had the injuries. So yeah, Hawkinson, when he came back, if you waited, but even so, he was okay. It's not like he won you a league. So Jake Ferguson was someone who people liked. I know I did, as tight end 9, tight end 10 off the board.
Because it made sense because there was no one else there.
And he had a good stretch while Dak was healthy, and then he got injured, and then the quarterback play sunk him. We already know about Kyle Pitts and what he did to teams. But that's the thing. The tight ends last year were pretty disappointing for the most part. We obviously had the top 3 guys. Njoku had flashes. He finished 4th in points per game.
Yeah, when it wasn't Deshaun Watson out there.
And I guess Kelce, I guess when you look at the overall landscape of the position, he wasn't as bad as we think.
No. But
it wasn't good. He didn't deliver on his ADP, but you could have been worse off at the position with someone else.
1,000%. But that's the difference is that's why when you and I talk about our builds, I won't go for the 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round tight end. George Kittle was the one last season where it was okay, this makes sense. He's a little bit more discounted than usual, but if you wait and you get past a certain point, Adam, and you look at the board and you say, all right, well, I've missed out on, I don't know where I would stop even this year, because maybe it's Mark Andrews, David Njoku, Jonnu Smith, and you say those guys are already off the board. Then you get into the Tucker Kraft, Dallas Goedert, Dalton Kincaid, Jake Ferguson range. And at that point, to me, Adam, because of the difference or the lack of difference in really points per game at the tight end position last season, I'll say, all right, I'll wait. I'll go get the K-Dot and I'll wait and maybe, look at, depending on where Colston Loveland goes, get Colston Loveland, Jake Ferguson, because then you can still get solid running backs in that 0 RB range. You can still get some solid backup receivers there. That's just the reason I say it, because there wasn't that much of a difference. Once you get past the top 3, 4, 5 tight ends last season in their points per game, there wasn't a big difference.
Yeah. I do think you'll see Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland play a role. A lot's going to depend on the landing spot, but I think you're going to see and especially people will be more open to it. In the past, the stigma was rookie tight ends don't perform. Mm-hmm. And now look at the last 2 years, Sam Laporta, Brock Bowers. And we know how good Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland can be. So if they're in the right offenses, you're going to see those guys move up. And
who would you rather? Let me give you this scenario here for drafts. Colston Loveland to the Los Angeles Chargers. Would you rather draft him with the Chargers, or would you rather draft Tyler Warren on the Indianapolis Colts? Who do you like more?
I think I might lean Loveland.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because look at the Colts need a tight end, right? But they have solid receivers, and Anthony Richardson's still the quarterback where the accuracy remains an issue. Now, maybe a tight end helps. I don't know. But we all know that even though the Chargers brought in a couple tight ends.
Yeah, but he can. Colston Loveland can jump. Yeah. Who was it? It was Disley and someone else, right?
Yeah, they brought back Disley, and there was someone else. So why can I remember?
I don't know
now?
why. I know I did a whole video on it. And I don't remember either. That's who was? Hang on. Tyler Conklin.
That's okay. Yeah. So they have Disley and Conklin, but still, he can jump both of them
easily.
Yeah. They certainly could use another weapon in the passing game. Again, Herbert had a great regular season, but we saw in the playoffs it was a problem. It was just Ladd McConkey. They did bring in Mike Williams, but older, definitely a risk for injury. So, yeah, but I do think you're going to see both those tight ends go top. I mean, if you're drafting now, you're going to take Warren in the top 12, maybe Loveland just outside that. Once we see where they land, you're going to see them move up.
Yeah, right now, Colston Loveland is tight end 16 for us, Fantasy Life rankings. Again, this is without a landing spot, so you can only imagine. And then Tyler Warren is 10. He's 10, and you could see him, depending on where he goes, jump, Travis Kelce, Jonnu Smith?
Yeah, it's
David
possible.
David Njoku? I want to throw his name in there.
Probably not. Again, it really depends on. I guess I could see. I mean, look, Njoku's been really good when he's been on the field, even with the terrible quarterback play that they've got.
He's been better without. It's just been without Deshaun Watson. He's put up these. Remember that run he had with Joe Flacco? And we were just sitting. He was a hero. He was legitimately a late season hero.
And then with Winston.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Look at the last 3 games he played. He had 17, 13, and 10 targets.
That's crazy.
It's absurd. So
it is absurd.
If you get any tight end that's getting that volume, and especially the talent in Njoku, they got to be up there.
All right, next part of the water cooler here. I do just want to throw this out because you're our resident bettor for the NFL. But, the Eagles, Chiefs, Bills, Ravens. All right, Eagles, Chiefs, Bills, Ravens win totals set at 11.5, the highest in the NFL. So I just wanted to throw that out there that you got the 4 with the highest win totals in the NFL, 11.5. And then coming in, the next win total order are the Lions and 49ers, each at 10.5. And then it's a handful of a lot of teams at 9.5, like the Rams, the Chargers, the Texans, Bengals way up there. That was probably the biggest jump. Bengals at 9.5, Commanders listed at 9.5 as well. But feels like those 4 teams they're going to be battling. And so 11.5 seems probably just about right.
Yeah, they've just been pretty much one of the best near the top of the NFL the last few years. And they all have top quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
Eagles always draft very well. That just seems like everything falls in their lap. The Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes, and it looks like no matter what the talent is around them, he figures out a way. Last year, a lot of people thought the Bills would fall off, and instead they dominated the AFC East. There was no threat from the Jets at all. Dolphins, nope. And the Ravens, they're always up there. It's just with the Ravens, it's just, can they take that next step? Can they win that postseason game? That's what it's all about. We always expect them to be one of the best teams in the regular season, and it's all about, can they get past the Chiefs at this point? That's really the biggest question mark for them. So none of those are surprises at all.
8.5 for the Arizona Cardinals.
What, you think that's too low? You think that's something you would take it over?
It's just always. I think I'm always too high, though, on the Arizona Cardinals. So I need to stop. I need to be stopped. I can't draft Kyler Murray as much as I did last year. This can't be right. Dallas Cowboys at 8.5?
Cowboys 8.5? I don't know. I have a lot of concerns about that. First of all, Philly's the best team in the division. and Washington's better than them. You said Washington was 9.5, right?
Yeah, 9.5.
See, with Dallas though, like Dallas is a popular public betting team, so they cannot put it too low. I mean, are they America's team? They suck.
No, not anymore. No, right? They're the worst.
Come on.
Who is America's team right now?
Oh boy, that's a good question.
The Lions, probably.
I was going to say it can't be the Chiefs. People hate the Chiefs.
No, people hate the Chiefs, and I think the Commanders are too young for it to happen yet. It has to be the Lions.
Is it the Lions?
Led by Dan Campbell? Yeah. People love the Lions.
I guess so. I don't even think.
Let me tell you who
it's
not. It's not the Seahawks.
Oh, it's definitely not.
I know what it's not, and it's not.
I don't think it's
Seattle Seahawks.
It's not the Ravens, right?
No. People, I just the hate on Lamar Jackson just goes every single season. Is just
people just wait to see him fail in the playoffs, and he didn't even fail. He had a good game. They didn't lose because of him.
That's why I say I don't think it could be him, because there's just too many conversations about if he's actually good, and I just hate those.
I don't think there is an America's team, but Detroit might be closest, just because they've lost for so long, and then now they're finally good.
Yes,
but I don't think there is one.
Lions need to these Lions fans, they need to. You think the window is open? I talked to you about this last week with the Ravens when they had the extension for Harbaugh, and I said, okay, 3 years, do they go to not only go to a Super Bowl and win? So same question to you with the Lions. Like they've been so patient, and that's how they've built that team, which has been obviously a success. They've allowed these coaches to have patience, and the organization has been patient. But yeah, it feels like they're right there with the window. You think they're going to win?
I think it's still open for them.
Oh, still open for sure. But 3 years, do you think they go to a Super Bowl?
I will say no.
Oh, that's not good then. But we've talked about it's hard to not only get to a Super Bowl, it's hard to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
everyone knows
really
that.
Is.
But like the stats, everything that goes into it and the stats for it is just it's just difficult. So I'd say I agree with the Ravens though. They go.
I mean, look, Detroit's defense just had so many injuries last year. It was just unfortunate for them, because they had a great regular season and they just had so many injuries on the defensive side that it caught up to them in the end.
Who gets to the playoffs faster, the Seahawks or the Cowboys? It's the Seahawks.
Yeah. Division is because your division is more winnable.
No, I know that's why it was crazy with all the. I mean, and again, this could really just work out, and maybe Sam Darnold. I don't think he's the answer, but maybe they didn't want to, I guess, pay Geno Smith, even though you paid a good amount for Sam Darnold anyway. But the division is so wide open that
I think the Rams are the best team.
Oh, the Rams, hands down, are the best team.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if the 49ers bounce back.
This was the opening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't usually see the 49ers fall off like they did, and I do think they have a bounce back, and they're good in 2025. But that was the more frustrating part, was like you kind of saw a chink in the armor, just like we did with the Chiefs at one point, and you say, okay, is this the time? Can we bring them down? And I don't know if it's going to happen.
Do you know what the most surprising thing about the Seahawks was last season?
There's a lot. What?
They were 3-6 at home and 7-1 on the road.
Yep.
Because
I remember people were giving me crap about the 12th man stuff.
Yeah.
Like, what about the 12th man? Yeah.
When you are 7-1 on the road in the NFL, how do you not win 11, 12 games?
Exactly.
The only other team, obviously there's some teams that play 9 road, 9 home. The only other team that had the Lions were 8-0 on the road.
Really?
Yeah, and then Chiefs were 7-2 on the road.
Of course.
And that was it. So yeah, Seattle had the second best road record and only won 10 games. Very weird.
Yeah, it's disappointing. It was really just at the end of the day disappointing, but we'll see.
Well, the Cowboys were 2-7 at home, 5-3 on the road.
There we go. I know.
Cowboys can't win at home anymore. It's crazy. They have no home field advantage.
They went on a run where we just had to sit here and say, wow, I wonder if they're going to win at home today. Because what was the streak? There was a streak at one point where
right?
What was that? I'll look it up in the break. But there was a streak where we said, all right, is it going to end today? I think it was from the playoffs up until week 10 or week 8
the first game they won at home was against the Giants. Was that Thanksgiving? I think it was.
Oh my gosh, you didn't win your first home game till November?
Yeah, they lost against the Saints, Ravens, Lions, Eagles, Texans, and then finally beat the Giants. I believe that was Thanksgiving week, if I'm not mistaken. Was it?
We can be
think it
sad
was.
together. We can be sad Cowboys Seahawks fans together, and everything's gonna be all right.
Thank goodness for fantasy football and betting, because if I
Hopefully.
didn't have that, it'd be so depressing.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. All right, that was the Fantasy Life water cooler. Again, fantasylife.com. That's where you go and sign up for that newsletter, 100% free in your inbox, 7 days a week still. And then all of our articles, like I always say, 100% free. But all of the rankings there get you ready for the NFL draft, which is just so helpful. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you here. Fantasy Life on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Time flies when we're having fun. Right? BFFs?
It really does. And it also brings us closer to the finale of White Lotus tonight.
I know. I'm so excited. I can't wait.
My Sundays going forward are going to be insane because I'll play softball at 9 a.m. Got rained out today. Then I have this show. Then I have to do all my fantasy baseball free agent budget, which is like 7 leagues.
Yeah.
So, and then, it's unfortunate that White Lotus will be.
I was going to say, what are we watching after this? So did you do Severance? I finished Severance.
Yeah, I watched it.
I finished it. That was amazing.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I do watch Righteous Gemstones. This is also the final season of that. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
It
I've
is
heard
wild.
It's really good.
It is wild. It's one of those real funny shows. Kind of stupid, but real funny.
The Last of Us.
Yeah,
good.
I have not seen that.
I haven't either, but I've heard it's really good. You know what I started watching, which Ani would love, is that I started watching Survivor. Just for fun.
Oh, I never got into that. Nah.
It's kind of fun. I started way back. Yeah, I don't know. You have on in the background people doing the challenges. I like challenge type things.
I like more comedy. Well, Impractical Jokers, which is also over now. So a lot of shows ending.
Forever?
Well, no, the season is over.
Oh, okay. I know we're gonna.
And you know what's the crazy part? I don't know if I told you this. They do a lot of, at least this past season, they did a lot of the skits at the American Dream Mall, which is very close to me. Yes. And I have never stepped foot in that mall.
But now you have to go because,
I have to because
I know we've had this conversation before, but hypothetically, if you went to the mall and you saw them, like,
I would act like I didn't know them so I can get on the show.
Okay, so you would play along. Okay,
I would.
I like that.
I'm guarantee you I can do it. I wouldn't be like starstruck and be like, oh my God. I would play it off like I didn't know who they were and hopefully get on the show.
That'd be so fun. Yeah, you have to do that this year. There's a lot of now we're starting our list early of things that we have to do. The cotton candy burrito is still on the list for me.
No, that's off it.
But you have to go to the mall. I feel like they'll leak, when they're filming it. Like that can't be a huge secret.
Yeah, I have to find out because I definitely need to go. I need to find out when they start filming and then show up there because it's a huge mall. It's right next to MetLife Stadium, and
cool.
I've never stepped foot in there, but I need to go.
Now you have to go.
Plus, it's a big mall. You could walk, get those steps in that I love. There you
go. If it's raining, you can walk inside, or you could just not walk. That's my kind of preference, but it's totally fine. Early positional rankings. I wanted to go through some more names here. I know we touched on a few of these last week, or a few different names last week, but there are just a lot of questions with going into the 2025 season, how good these guys could be, what their ceiling might end up being as well. Jackson Smith and Jigba. I know we just talked about the Seattle Seahawks and getting Sam Darnold in there, Geno Smith now with the Las Vegas Raiders. But talk about a team that has really no other options besides JSN. It makes us have to believe, right, Adam, that in the year 2025 that JSN is the wide receiver one for this team. And he had that breakout last season. Like we saw it, even though when DK Metcalf came back from a couple of injuries, it was like, no, we're going to stick with JSN here. And it's kind of baked in already to his ADP. He's going to be expensive. He's going right now off the board, wide receiver 13. So he's going right around Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, Garrett Wilson, Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore as the wide receivers around him. But I'm curious if you're kind of in on that. He was averaging 17.7 fantasy points per game, 27% target share from week 8 to 18. So that was the breakout. Do you think we still have that JSN breakout to start the year?
I would think so. I think he obviously commands much of the targets in this offense. I know they brought in Cooper Kupp, but I don't think he has much left.
Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Don't forget.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
Don't forget.
He had some massive games last year.
Stop.
But yeah, third year for JSN. I had him in one league last year, and I wish I had him in one. You know what it was? I just couldn't. He was a target of mine because of the draft spot where he was going. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I got him in round 8 of our Greenwich Street Tavern League. And
Wow.
obviously, yeah, he was generally going in that range because, look, he was overvalued season 1 as a rookie coming in when you had
Yes.
Lockett and Metcalf there. But I saw Lockett finally declining. You know, he was a player that I took every year in fantasy because he was undervalued. I thought last year I was out because I thought you would see a rise of JSN, which we did. Now, obviously, you got to pay up for it now. It is a new quarterback, new system. I do think they're going to focus on the run, but it doesn't mean that that can't help JSN. So you said wide receiver 13 is the consensus rankings on Fantasy Life?
Consensus rankings, he's 12, which is probably where I would have him too.
Yeah, I'd say 13. That's 13. That's like the right spot right there.
Yeah, because ahead of him, and again, we've had this conversation about Ladd McConkey, where I thought by this time, if you told me months ago that it was going to be the beginning of April and they would have added no other, receivers, which I do think they go and get a tight end, whether it's Colston Loveland or someone else. I do think they add, but really I thought it was going to be a wide receiver for that Chargers team. And I thought it might have been Devontae Adams, and it just didn't happen. So Ladd McConkey, I think, has to be ahead of him. Drake London, AJ Brown, and I think for some people, T. Higgins might be ahead of JSN just because it's the Bengals, just because, their defense is probably still going to be pretty bad in the year 2025. And it's Joe Burrow, even though you have, even though, he's not the wide receiver 1, he could go ahead of JSN, but I think that's where it stops.
Yeah, all those that you mentioned, I would take ahead of him. I think you said Brown, London, McConkey, Higgins, right?
Yeah, Higgins.
Yeah, I would take all of them ahead of him.
Yeah, because then it goes to Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I want
JSN every time.
I'd have Hill a lot lower, I think, right now.
Then, yeah, and again, these are going to be updated, but he's 14, wide receiver 14.
Yeah, I'd take him later than that.
Yeah, so I agree with you with JSN, if nothing else, that he's just going to get peppered with targets. I don't know, Adam. I don't know if they don't go into this draft, though, and get a Matthew Golden. Maybe that's someone that they walk away with. I can't imagine that it's, and maybe it is. Maybe I'm just being biased, but I can't imagine that it's JSN, Cooper Kupp, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
It might be.
Or maybe that's because it scares me and it's kind of gross, but that's fine.
Yeah, look, I was concerned about Cooper Kupp late in the season. Well, actually, before last year, I think I told the story so I had no Cooper Kupp last year. Mm-hmm. And then it was one of my last big money drafts that I had a partner. And at that time, Puka Nacua was injured. So we started to see, if you remember, I mean, you did early best balls. Wasn't Cooper Kupp, I'm talking June, May, June, he was round 4, right?
He was, because he jumped ahead.
Right, by the time we got to late August, early September, he was going in round 2. So I was sitting there early round 2, and my partner's like, yeah, Cooper Kupp. I was like, I don't know, man. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, all right, look, I don't have any Cooper Kupp anywhere. Maybe I'm wrong. Puka was hurt to start the year. Fine, we'll do it. Obviously, Cooper Kupp got off to a ridiculous start. He put up big numbers. I was like, okay, maybe I was wrong on him. Because if you remember, the first game of the year, he had 21 targets, 14 for 110 and a touchdown. And he scored a touchdown twice in the first 3 games, and he was putting up great numbers. He got hurt after week 2, missed about a month, came back, and was still good. And then his last good game was against Philly, November 24th. He had 8 for 16, a touchdown, 11 target, and then he fell off the face of the earth. He was not even getting targeted. Yep. And the fact that the Rams were rumored to be trading him during the season, and then they got hot, they kept him, and the fact that the Rams wanted no part of him, they did not want him back. This is a team that knows him best, that knows the injuries he's had. To me, that was a major red flag, and I'm actually surprised that he got that much money from Seattle.
Because it was bad. I just straight up. And I don't know if you remember this, but it wasn't this time last year, but it was really close to the draft this time last year where there were Cooper Kupp trade rumors then. And it was like, whoa, that's big. That could be big. And so I'm with you. So, and yeah, Cooper Kupp, because there was the idea that he was going ahead. It wasn't even an idea. He was going ahead in some of those drafts ahead of Puka Nacua because people didn't think that Puka would be able to stay healthy. And
right. He was injured in the preseason, right? Did Puka, he missed the first few games, right? Yeah, he missed some time because the week he came back, there was a Thursday night game and there was rumors Cooper Kupp could get traded. They won that game and the division was wide open. 49ers were struggling. I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, wait, no. Puka played week 1 and got hurt.
He played week 1, and
That's
then
what
he
happened.
missed
And it was
weeks 2 to 7.
Right. It was a Thursday night game against Minnesota. The rumors were that week, and that was right before the trade deadline, that Cup could be dealt. And then they won that game. They beat Minnesota, and it was like, oh, okay, well, you know, the division and the playoffs are within reach, and they kept them, and obviously they made the playoffs. And who knows if that game was not bad weather in Philadelphia, because they gave Philadelphia probably the most competitive game in the postseason.
Sure. For sure. You doing 0% Cooper Kupp this year again?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I know to wrap it up.
I know he's very cheap right now.
Yeah.
Right. He's gonna be like a wide receiver 4, but I can't see it. Because I'm just worried about him staying healthy. And now also remember, in that system with Matthew Stafford was perfect, and he wasn't even getting targeted. I know he had a decent game against Philadelphia in the playoffs, but yeah, it's just the way he's such a product of that system. And I just worry about the injuries. And it's a bad sign when the team that knew him best had no consideration of keeping him.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. I know people are gonna look and say, well, you know, JSN is now gonna get most of the eyeballs, and that's gonna leave someone open. And it's just like, yeah, but it's Cooper Kupp and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So maybe MVS in those really cheap leagues, in those really cheap picks, but that's probably about it. And maybe there's going to be a path to fantasy goodness there, but it's really only JSN. And like I said, wide receiver 12 for him going into the season so far. FantasyLife.com, though, that's where you can go to check out this new mock draft. Kendall Valenzuela here, Adam Ronis with you, Fantasy Life on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. I do want to go through this, and I know you and I have talked through some of our favorite landing spots for these rookies when it comes to fantasy football, but this new mock draft, I want to talk maybe about more of the later picks, because we always go through, you know, Ashton Genty going to the Las Vegas Raiders at 6. What are the Tennessee Titans, you know, Giants, Browns, what are they going to do at the top? Let's go to the bottom, though, because, and we've mentioned this one before, so we don't have to spend too much time on it, but feels like the worst kept secret that the Broncos really want Omarion Hampton, because to me, Adam, that's the second best running back you're going to get in this class. If Ashton Genty is gone, which for pick 20, he is going to be gone, because you have to get through not only your Cowboys, but you have to get through the Bears. And again, we've said the Las Vegas Raiders. So he's probably not going to be there. He is definitely not going to be there. So next best thing, Omarion Hampton, who, like you said, you get rid of Javonte Williams. Jaleel McLaughlin never really stepped into that role, never really took over that RB1 kind of output for fantasy football. So you get Omarion Hampton there. And I just think, to me, Adam, anyone for the Broncos, really any running back that they get, because it's such a deep class, that's someone for me I'm going to want to target a lot, because you're going to go in there and you're going to have this role kind of wide open for you. And if it's Omarion Hampton from North Carolina, that's going to be fun.
For sure. We are all waiting to see who Denver takes. Like, we want a running back in that system. So when you look at the draft board, there's a good chance he's there. I guess the one team, I don't think they will, but maybe there's a chance Dallas takes him. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
is there anyone else that you see? I don't, right? I don't think there's anyone else.
Dallas, no. You know what was interesting, and I will say this, and this was a podcast we did a couple days ago, so I'll retweet it so people can find it. Thor Nystrom said when we did our last podcast that he has heard that the San Francisco 49ers might take a running back.
That's not crazy.
And it's not crazy, but I don't know, you know,
at 11 though.
At 11 though,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it's at 11, or I don't have their picks right in front of me, and where they're picking.
I could see it later in the draft. I would be surprised.
11 would be shocked, and it would shake fantasy football a little bit, thinking, okay, when we talk about draft capital, because that does have a lot to do with it. When you look at the rookie supermodel, Dwayne McFarland always puts into account the draft capital. Ashton Genty going as the top guy there for running backs, that's going to be in consideration. So I will say that's the only other team where that could surprise us, because then you go, Chicago needs a running back, maybe San Francisco, you've got Dallas, and then Atlanta, Arizona, Cincinnati, no. Seattle, no. I think that he could fall all the way to Denver, because that's the only other team.
Yeah, I think that's the most logical landing spot at this point. With San Francisco, They lost. They trade Jordan Mason's gone.
Yeah.
Elijah Mitchell's gone. Still got Isaac Guerrero, who they drafted last year, and Patrick Taylor. But McCaffrey, we know it's getting close to the end, right? So
Yeah.
I could see them taking a running back later on. That they probably have their eyes on someone that they really like in the later rounds.
So they have pick 11, pick 43 in the second round, and then pick 75 in the third round, and then a couple of round 4 picks, couple of round 5 picks, and then 3 picks in round 7. So I'm with you. I think that it wouldn't be. I think it would be shocking if it happened in the first round.
Yeah.
But again, the running back class is deeper this year, so we could see them happen. I mean, we wouldn't be then shocked if it was pick 43, pick 75, because like you said, Jordan Mason was on the move. So yeah, that's something to look out for. But Amari and Hampton for sure with the Denver Broncos. What about the Steelers taking Jackson Dart from Mississippi? This is an interesting one because they have no quarterback, Adam. So I mean, really, they're waiting on Aaron Rodgers. If that doesn't happen, though, maybe they go get Jackson Dart.
Even if they get Rodgers, they could still take him, right? The likelihood is, though, it doesn't Aaron Rodgers. Isn't he going to be on Pittsburgh by now, right? Like, it's just.
I don't know. He likes.
So what do you think's going to happen? He just bails
on
and says I'm retiring?
No, he's just going to wait. So we talk about him the longest that we can, and then he's going to say, "All right, I guess I'll go with the Steelers." That's what's going to happen. I don't know what he's waiting for. I still don't understand the Vikings thing. I don't know if that's.
I guess he's holding out hopes.
There's no way.
It's probably
maybe
not.
There is a way. They have no one else besides JJ McCarthy. I'll say that.
Yeah.
They have no one behind him.
But that could be the only thinking is like, well, maybe they cave, and because that's a better spot as far as the talent and everything that's there. So he's probably hoping for that, knowing that it's likely not going to happen. But I think we see Rodgers in Pittsburgh, but I think they could still draft Dart anyway. So they would be the other team for a running back, but obviously Denver's right ahead of them. So you got to think Denver would take Hampton, and then Pittsburgh wouldn't take a running back there.
Yeah, at 21, because unless they moved up, but they have some more needs. And again, I keep saying it, but it really is. The running back class is so good that, again, if your team doesn't take, isn't able to get an Ashton Genty, or if they're not able to get the Omari and Hamptons of the world, you still go down the list and you still have Travion Henderson out of Ohio State. You've got Quinshon Judkins, who's supposed to be so good. Caleb Johnson out of Iowa is one of these guys where you could really see this low end RB2 with a shot at RB1 upside for all those guys that I said. And then you still have, Cam Scatterby. Forks up. We love Cam Scatterby here, but you still have some of these guys where Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee. There's a long list, is all I'm trying to say. Bashal Tutin. There's a long list of running backs where if they don't get them in the first round, they could easily go second, third round and still get really good guys for the Steelers.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of teams are looking at that way. So that's why a lot of running backs that we feel are in good spots right now, it's going to change after this draft.
Exactly. Last one, Packers with the 23rd overall pick. There's been a lot of mocks where they just go get any wide receiver. So that's kind of why I want to bring it up.
They never take wide receivers.
I know, but wouldn't it be funny if this was the year they said, yeah, let's go get Matthew Golden? Are you taking any? I mean, are you taking a Dontavian Wicks? Are you taking any of these wide receivers this year in drafts? Are they appealing to you?
I know they're going to be cheaper than they were, but we've kind of seen it now where just no one is going to stand out. Even people who took Jaden Reed last year, you have to be disappointed with what he gave you. And I mean, I've always been a guy that takes Christian Watson. I won't this year, obviously.
I was going to say,
is he going to be good to start the year? No, right?
There's no chance. I think it's one of those things where if he is, it's way towards
right.
The later half. He got hurt late in the season.
That's what's crazy about Green Bay, because you would think the top guy that's going to be selected is Jaden Reed. And where's he going to go? Outside the top 40?
Has to be, right?
Yeah. Like, I don't see how you can't take him in the top 40, maybe right around 40 to 45. So you have him. And then, so none of these guys are going to be costly at all, but you're not going to feel good about it because we just went through an entire season where we just saw it's a different guy. There's no one that is going to command the bulk of the targets in this offense.
no group of wide receivers had more total drops than the Packers last year at 25. And their drop rate was 8.4%, which also led the league, which is kind of crazy to think. If we're looking at Jordan Love and saying maybe he could have a better season in 2025, it has to start there. But they do have to invest. And that's why it makes me laugh when I see some of these mocks where they have Matthew Golden going there. And we just know that that's not what they do at receiver. They just don't go out and draft him. But even when you have your running back, when you have Josh Jacobs come out and say, I think we need a guy that's proven to be a number one wide receiver already. Like, that's pretty telling that they need some help.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers was saying it all those years. Remember that?
But no one listened
the
to
Justin
him.
Jefferson class when he wanted a receiver, he was reeling all the guys off, and they didn't do it. So, yeah, it's puzzling that they don't like to invest in the wide receiver position early in drafts.
We'll see if they do it this year. That grade 3 ACL tear, by the way, Christian Watson, that was on January 5th. There's no way he's coming. That was way later than I thought.
I hate to see anyone get injured, but at least he saved me from taking him again.
There you go. Yeah, now you don't have to take him again. I sure do have you covered. Folgers has you covered. FantasyLife.com has you covered. Adam Ronis has you covered. We're ready for the football season to begin, but just a few months away so far. Well, at least we have the NFL draft coming up, so we'll have a lot of things to talk about there, Adam. I wanted to finish things off today just talking about some potential buy low dynasty players and some names that I've seen going around. The one that's really interesting, and I want to hear your thoughts because I don't know if I'm in on this one, but it was Keon Coleman, wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills. And if you're in on buying low on Keon Coleman from what he's shown. So again, this wide receiver room, Khalil Shakir, who they paid, then you've got Keon Coleman, then you brought in Joshua Palmer, then you have, the Curtis Samuels, the Laviska Shenaults, the KJ Hamlers of the world. So really those are the big three though. And from what we've seen or what we haven't seen from him is kind of interesting because there was the wrist injury that really set him aside last season, where the coaches even said that when he came back, like, he was not the same player when he returned. So if he has now you've got a full off season where he is working out, where the wrist injury is going to heal up and get better, if we believe that he could have a better 2025 season because of that.
He could. I don't know how much better it's going to be, just the way this offense operates. I still like Shakir the best. You mentioned him and them paying him. I was very high on him last year. And, in PPR formats, he was pretty good, just because of the volume that he gets. Coleman's a big body receiver, 6'4", 215. He did show some things on the deep passing game, 19.2 yards per catch. So the problem is I just don't know if the volume is going to be there. But as far as a buy low, if you don't have to give up much for him, yeah, because there is a chance that, he could emerge and become better. That was his first year, and I don't think we expected big things his first year with everything that they had. But I could see if I can get him at a cheap price, I would.
He was the wide receiver 2, of course, on the Bills in terms of targets. He sat at 57, but I think Khalil Shakir, what do you have? 90, 100?
And then, there were other reports, too, that Kincaid wasn't really healthy at all and played through injuries, and they were expected. I think Matthew Berry put that in one of his columns, that, some of the things he found out about. So
like you said, if it's buy low, maybe, there could be a path there, but not spending too much. What about, last one here really quick, what about Jerry Jeudy? Are you buying Jerry Jeudy, even if we think to ourselves they might have they don't have a quarterback right now, so you have a new quarterback potentially coming in, and then it's really just him on that list so far?
Yeah, the problem is, though, we saw when the quarterback play is bad, he was terrible. It was really Winston who brought him to life, so I'm concerned.
Everything comes back to Jameis Winston.
Yes.
Just let Jameis Winston throw Malik Neighbors the ball, and we're going to be happy. I think that's the breakdown.
It is.
That's all we need.
If he's there, if he gets the
Winston,
job.
fantasy love. All right. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with us today. FantasyLife.com to go and subscribe to that newsletter. We'll see you next time.